I think we're live. Are we? Yes, I think we are. Fantastic. Okay, let me get all this set up properly. Hey guys. Nice. And we're back. Nice. Hope everyone is having a good day so far. This is day number 24. 24 days of lockdown. And still going strong. Fantastic. So, yeah, let me get everything set up properly. Just to make sure. Yep, this one's working. That's good. Nice. And I just want to get my restream chat thing going so that I can talk to all you guys at the same time. There we go. Right, awesome. Hi everyone. Welcome to day 24 of this modular lockdown series. I have been doing this just about every day since it got announced here that there was a stay-at-home order for everyone, and decided to just make the best out of it. And it has become the best out of it for sure. I mean, even without this lockdown, I was just thinking about that yesterday, that even if there weren't a lockdown order like this would have been a ton of fun to do. And oh wait, give me a sec. Especially under these circumstances, I feel that this is probably the best way for me to spend my time. But so many cool things have happened so far, and it's just getting better and better and better. Super excited about everything. Oh, life. Anyway, let me see. I still have the same patch as yesterday hooked up here. And I was about to take it down for today. But then I figured, like, no, there's still quite a bit that we can explore with this, especially since last night we ended with something very chilled out, kind of the lullaby is what I called it. And I felt like, hey, this is the same patch that we've been using for this Terror Gabber set. It's the same one we've been using for the 100 BPM dinosaur McLovin stuff. And it's the same patch that we're using for the melodic things. So I am kind of thinking that there's more to explore with this same thing. So I'm just going to leave it up for one more day. Let me just chew on everything. Nice, that's good. Meanwhile, for those of you who were there yesterday, I uploaded the stems to the Dropbox folder once again. So I think I only missed the first 10 days or the first 9 days of my streaming sessions due to my audio interface crapping out on me. But for the rest, there is like 13 full sessions uploaded right now on the Dropbox. Pro tip, track number 17 for my uploads is usually the left-right stereo mix. So even if you don't want to mess around with the stems, you can download the actual stereo recording the way I hear it here. I listen to that. That's usually pretty okay. For those of you who are new here, hey there, welcome. Yeah, hi. Also, we got Instagram running as well right now. To the people who are watching Instagram right now, I am terribly sorry I cannot read your comments. So if you want to join the conversation, the best way to do that is by hopping over to YouTube and Twitch, youtube.com/Colin Benders or twitch.tv/cbenders. and then I can actually read the stuff that you are typing. But feel free to just juke it out from Insta. That's perfectly fine. And for those of you who are here and are here for the first time, like I said, we have a Discord community, and this Discord community is super awesome, and you all should be a part of it. So let me link that Discord community to you all, because it is probably the best thing that ever happened since the lockdown, and it has me kicking myself for not having done this sooner, because my god, this is a ton of fun. So everyone jump in here. That's where you have to be, and that's where the fun stuff is. So pop in there, click the green check mark, and introduce yourself, make yourself at home. I'm just tuning all the oscillators right now, because especially with melodic stuff, I hate it when things drift apart unintentionally. And for that, I've seen quite some speculation on what this little thing is, this box. This is actually just a chromatic tuner, and I didn't even buy it. I think I stole it from from someone else at some point. Just one of those things that ended up in my bag after a show, and I couldn't figure out whose it was, so sorry about that, but thank you for your donation. But yeah, this thing is actually pretty fantastic. It's been super tight so far, but that being said, I'll probably have to get me one of those Mordax thingies. And there we go, that's good. Also, I'm a little bit woozy today, since I stayed up way too late last night with Niels, the Moog Meditations guy. He introduced me to the game Broforce, and holy shit, I don't think I'll ever sleep again. That was... but yeah. Anyway, what we have here now is an empty patch. Oh yeah, I think I saved yesterday's patch, since I really liked that sequence. But we're just gonna start with something else. There we go. Let's just have a listen. So we have an empty patch, and I wanna we'll see where we go. Oh, I see a couple of questions here as well. Do you have any way of tuning your oscillators mid-set? Just your ear? Yeah, usually I try to do a quick tuning just by ear, but especially when there's like 2 oscillators or more on a single voice, I try to anchor it on a tuner, so I just grab the tuner out for it. Are you still using the same general patches you've been using? Yeah, this week I've been using the same patch for everything, but I'm just slowly expanding and looking for new ways to play with it. Also, in what country are you? I am in Holland, in the lovely city of Utrecht. Mestatie. Anyway, so, oh yeah, here I see a question. Why do you have 2 ear 101s? I have 2 ear 101s because I broke the first one through overusage. Well, didn't really break it, but the knobs are latching so horribly that when I try and input one note, I immediately have 11 in place. And another thing is I started getting more and more voices, and so at some point I wanted to be able to do more than 4 voice polyphony. So I got a second one, and then I could do 8 voice polyphony, and then I got even more voices, then I got the Expert Sleepers box, and now I can do 64 voice polyphony. However, that's a beast I haven't fully mastered yet, so How often do you have to retune your oscillators? Actually, that's something I have to do at least once every 15 minutes if I really want to stay in tune. Um, but usually when I hear something drifting, I grab the tuner, or I try to adjust it so that it works again. Anyway, let's have a look at what we can do. I'm gonna just start with let's go for dreamy. I feel like doing some dreamy stuff. Major. Let me see. Yes, this is gonna be a cute little melody. Let's see what this does. And I want the tempo. Where are we gonna set the tempo? Not too fast, not too aggressive, never too aggressive. Let's see what this does. All right. Okay, there we go. Let's see what this does. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ease a little bit on the bus compressor, because that thing is a little extreme right now. It's always been extreme, but let me see. What you should do is press the record button. You're probably right. Let me just record right away, and I'm gonna not talk through the process that I'm gonna do right now. I'm just gonna get started on this. Let's just go straight into the deep end. And I figured since last night we went for some serious hellscapes, let's ease it up a little right now and just go for something a little chilled out and laid back. I mean, sometimes we can ease things up a little. Right, okay, I'm gonna cut out the mic, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Cheers! Right on. That was a nice start of the day, I would say. There were a couple of weird things going on left and right earlier in the whole sequence, which was a bit annoying, where I accidentally triggered the reset at the wrong points, which kind of broke the flow, so I... That's the one downside, but I do like the way everything came together in the end. Nice. And let me check if the recording is running. Yes, it is. Fantastic. So we have this. That's good. I'm happy with that. And I'm pretty sure that at the very least we can... Yeah, we can get something useful out of this. That's good. Awesome. That's nice. So... Yeah. That was actually a very, very quick one. I think half an hour in, and we're doing okay, so I'm happy with that. Let me look at some of the questions I see popping up here. Very first thing, if you're watching on Instagram right now, hopping over to YouTube or Twitch, because that's where the conversation is happening. I cannot read your comments. I can only see the ones on YouTube and Twitch, so if you want to be a part of this, hop on over to youtube.com/ColinBenders or go to twitch.tv/cbenders. See you there. Anyway. Which oscillator do you use for bass normally? Last night it was massive. I'm using two Minimod VCOs by AJH synths, going into a AJH ladder filter. Yeah, basically just an entire AJH synth voice, and that's my bass. And then the other one, which is kind of the screaming Tyrannosaur in despair. That one is the Macbeth, which is always sounds massive. Ugh. And I need more of those. I really need more of those. So I'll find some of those. All you said about it was the downside that only you noticed. Yeah, I know, but that's one of those things. Like, when something trips, I always just hyper focus on only the things that trip. But I guess I'll just have to learn to live with it and move on. Is the second camera gone? I see someone asking in Twitch. It's not gone, but it's just in this room. I cannot find a decent angle for that thing. So for now, I'm just using the one camera. But the second one is still here and ready to roll for when we have something going. So, let me see. Memnor is saying here, I'm pretty sure there's a correlation with Orbit and Blade Runner 2049. Yes. Yes. Finally. So I'm not crazy. Oh, awesome. I mean, yeah. I mean, for those of you who are curious about what that's about, just listen to Orbit, the track I made like 3-4 years ago, and then listen to the Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Dennis Zerbin, thank you so much for your contribution. It's going towards the IKEA fund, which will be going into a new table, which should be on the way, and I should have it very soon. Your contribution is much appreciated. Thank you so much. I feel like you've been talking about needing new Macbeths for years now. Yeah, and you can never have enough Macbeths. I mean, you know what people say about VCAs, but I think the same kind of goes for this thing. Like, ugh. Yeah. If there's ever a single voice I'd replace my entire system with, it'd probably be just Macbeth voices. But I'm not gonna. I mean, I like these other things way too much, but Macbeth, damn. Let me see, what else are some questions here? How do you create complex sequence so quick? Quantize is basically my core approach usually when doing these things is yeah, there's there's kind of a set of chords, or basically every chord has a couple of logical follow-ups, and you can go outside of that as far as you want, and those, yeah, basically all notes in the chromatic scale fit into certain chords, and they fall out of certain other chords. And if you, like for example, if you go in F major, what we just did, I went from F major to D minor, since D minor and F major have the same notes in them. Same goes for C major, C major 7, I believe, and B flat, let me see. Shit, what was the right term for that again? I don't know, but there's a B flat scale which has the same thing, and so all these chords, once you go into F major, then you know that you can automatically fit all those chords and have the same melody running, and they will always fit together. And this is something that I'm using a lot, and I'm using a lot for when I am making melodies that I just want to run as an ARP. For my ARPs, I always pick notes that will fit into each and every chord in the entire sequence, so that I don't have to alter them on the fly, and still have some kind of fast contextual stuff going on. Meanwhile, holy shit, thank you guys so much for your support. I see donations coming in, so thank you, Sergey, thank you, Medik. This is all going towards my desk, so that's fantastic. But yeah, basically there's a lot of chords that all really tie together, and within the chords that tie together you can find the notes that overlap in all those chords, make your melodies based on that, and then you can make very complex chord changes and everything, while not changing anything about the melody that you have. And I kind of use them as building blocks, so you will always notice that there is, if I reconstruct this song that we have, that we played just now, let me just do that real quick. And I'm gonna start with this one, the, you'll notice this is just an F major melody. And nothing in this F major melody clashes with any of the other chords. If I introduce the bass, here. Yeah, you'll hear the bass, which is going to change into a D minor now. Still fits, because the C is in there too. And you have the B flat coming up next. Still fits. Same goes for all the other notes that happen in here. D fits in the same thing. This A is in there too, which is the edgiest one out of the entire series, I think, right now. And same thing here again. You see? And this melody never changes. And we go back to our solution. You see? So that's basically one of those golden rules that I always apply, and which you will always find in everything I do, which is at the same time... Oh, holy shit, Josh. Damn, thanks so much. That is very, very much appreciated. Dude, epic. Yep, my IKEA desk is officially funded now. Thank you. But yeah, anyway, the you will find in everything that I make, you will always find some of these tricks that I'm using. So my, I should really not be saying this, but it's like all my secrets here. But no, it's really if you can make your ARPs with those notes, then you can go crazy on your sequences outside of it. Like even if you would put in an E flat in this sequence, it would still fit in a way. Saying that like it means something, but no. Basically, if you just think about your ARP, and only pick the notes for it that are gonna fit in all the chords that you play out of it, then you can just leave it running without batting an eye on it, and it's gonna change its timbre and context with every round that happens and with every change that you make. So, and this applies for all the notes that you do, and then you can also intentionally go outside of it sometimes, which can be very interesting. But it's just something to keep in the back of your mind, I guess. Low rise, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that music theory lesson. You're very much welcome, dude. It's yeah. I hope any of that is helpful for when you're jamming out. And I think these are just some tips and tricks to use when you're jamming out, especially when you're doing real-time music making. Like, I haven't written an official song or anything in years by now, but I'm just kind of always sticking to these kind of cornerstones when I'm patching things up. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it, basically. It's you will always find these things repeating in what I do. But yeah, that's yeah, I kind of hope that helps. Definitely. I see a question here. Were we talking about chord progressions? Yep, we were talking about chord progressions, and it's for the musicians out there, for people who study piano or any other instruments. This is probably basic info, or it's information that that you probably did study. But I have found it to be tremendously helpful in real-time processes. Now to something completely different. Well, why did you cut your hair? I figured I hadn't done anything to it for 5 years actually, and I figured it was about time that I changed something, because it was really starting to get this massive knot and kind of this dread of mayhem going on. So I just cut it all off, and here we are, fresh start. Dennis, thank you so much. Once again, thanks for this contribution. That's super awesome. And I see a question with that. Any tips on creating super large reverb space? Yes, reverb is actually another interesting point, which also ties into this ties into now the table is paid for. Here's some cash for the next investment. Thank you so much, Stephen Heinzel. Much appreciated. So yeah, for reverb spaces, a big thing to keep in mind once again is chord progression. Like reverb, one of the things it does is it smears everything out. So if you listen to, again, this note, all these notes, if they were stretched out and you would play them all at the same time, it would form a chord, which would sound like this. You hear? So everything is kind of stretched out into one massive chord now. And this is just basically an F major chord broken up into a rhythm. A reverb basically stretches those things out and makes it all sound nice and tight and together for your ears, and everything that you put into that reverb just kind of creates this carpet, kind of as a trailing memory of sorts of everything that you just heard and everything that you're gonna expect to hear afterwards. So when building a reverb like that, it is basically kind of a backdrop to all the sounds that you put into it. Now if you're gonna do weird things in this same reverb, and horribly detune things. Let me see if I can do something really to just quickly mask this up. I think I can do that. Yeah, I'm just gonna do this. And we're gonna listen to the same reverb. And now I'm gonna introduce something detuned in it. Let me see if that works. This one doesn't really detune properly, but let me see if I introduce something. You basically get the idea, I think, that everything is starting to sound more and more shitty. That's basically what I'm trying to say in that one. And I think all of that really has to do mostly with how you organize your reverb in that sense. If you want big, lush reverbs, then you have to make sure that everything that happens within that reverb space and in that delay space is complementary the same way as you would build up a chord, because ultimately your reverb is going to spread everything out into chords. And this is also why with delays and stuff like that, you have to watch out for how your chord progressions work and what stuff you're going to delay that way. Because if you mess that up and you put in the wrong notes into your delay real quick in between, hell yeah, thank you so much. CE, thanks for all the online gigs. Can't wait for another real life gig after Basis Utrecht. We are Electric and ADE. Hell yeah. As soon as all this blows over, we're gonna be partying like it's 1999. Oh god. Anyway, yeah, what was I saying? So when you're working on big, lush reverbs and stuff like that, really make sure that everything you put in there is gonna be a complementary in a way. And you'll notice that the clearer you make the signals that you put into it, and the more accompanying they become, the more you can put into it, the longer you can stretch it, the fuller it's going to sound, and the better it's going to fit in your mix. And the same applies to delays in that sense, and to anything that goes with it. So it's all a matter of trying to organize the chaos that you put into something. Yeah, I guess reverb and delays really ties into chord studies as well in that sense. So I hope that kind of made sense. When doing drums, something similar applies, but there it's more about in drums you want punchiness and you want to have definition. And this is also something that really plays into reverbs and delays, is your definition can get very lost if you completely oversaturate something. So if you want to have rhythmic stuff, you're gonna want some form of contrast between the transients and the space itself, which sits behind it. So that's something you should be listening to when you're putting reverb on stuff like drums and on hats and on snares and whatever. So it's always gonna be kind of balancing between transients and space and harmony in that sense. So I guess that's my 2 cents for reverbs and delays. Let me see. I see a question here. How many other reverb modules do you have? I have right now what you're hearing is only the reverb and the dual delay. I have a second one usually to back up a second reverb, but I've noticed that if I kind of take care of how far I go into it, I can perfectly use just one of each without oversaturating it. So yeah, that I guess. Any book that is essential to any musician and composer, I would definitely say just start with chord progressions and studies. Everything is in there. If you know how to master the music theory behind it, it's all just gonna read like a book on its own. Music is basically written out as a language, a very mathematical language in a way, and if you know the grammar of it, then it's all gonna make perfect sense. So probably just start with that and see where that brings. I don't know any real examples, but basically they're all going to give you the same information, just as each and every mathematics book is going to tell you 1 + 1 = 2. Unless you're going deep in quantum and stuff, and I have no clue about that. But basically, I think that's the that's your best starting point. Just start out with learning about chord progressions and rhythmic studies, and then it's all just gonna fit. So, what are the 2 modules under the laptop? These are my Macbeth babies. This is circle of fifths, exactly. That's something you should look up. Holy crap, that's data lek. Yeah, that's circle of fifths is something you really should look up in Google and memorize, and that's gonna be your holy grail of chord progression, basically. Let me see. Yeah, basically these silver ones here are Macbeth oscillators. You'll hear me talking about those a lot when I'm streaming. Anyway, shall we do something else? Let's move on and are we going melodic? I think we can go deeper in the melodic things. How do you make your drums in this setup? In this setup right now, my drums are all drum modules. I've been using those especially for live sets. So I just have my... oh, there's a ton of reverb on that. But I basically have my drum modules here. Sometimes I take it all apart to just manually patch the drums, but I've started to adapt mostly to just using drum modules since 9 times out of 10 I've noticed that that's doing exactly what I need it to do. But sometimes I can make something different. Oh, do I see people going for Doom in here? 130 BPM techno? Doom? 170 BPM IDM melodic summer stroopwafel. More melodies. You know what? Maybe we can try and go for a melodic doom vibe. I think that could be epic. Something dark, trippy, hypnotic. I'm gonna go for something dark, trippy, hypnotic, melodic, and gritty. I think that should be fun. Let's see what happens. I don't know about you guys, but I've been really enjoying the 100 BPM sessions lately. So this one just now was 115 BPM, by the way. I think it was 115. Yeah, it was 115. Right. We'll go 100 BPM. To hell with it. By the way, is there an actual techno subgenre at 100 BPM? Because I feel like there should be. It sounds so awesome. Everything that happens at this at this tempo lately really has me just tripping out. So let's see what we can do. Okay, that works. I am going to. Oh, my my Instagram stream is offline. I see. All right, guys, give me a second. Meanwhile, I'm also streaming on Instagram, which is pretty interesting. So let me just get this one up and running, and then we'll have everyone together in one massive party, and it's gonna be fun. There we go. And here we go. And we should be back online. There we go. Hello, people on Instagram. You should all head out to youtube.com/ColinBenders or twitch.tv/cbenders. Also, everyone who is watching the stream, this is also a public service announcement that we have a Discord group, and the Discord group is growing steadily, and I want you all to be a part of it. So join here. This is also where you will find all the sessions recorded and ready to go in a Dropbox folder, not behind a paywall or anything, just there for your leisure. Just don't sell it to Coca-Cola, and I am happy. Let's go. Okay, let me record that stuff. Russian Gopnik hard bass. I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna research that. That sounds interesting. Okay, I'm gonna hit record. I'm just gonna go straight into the deep end with this, and we'll see what happens, alright? My sequences are empty, except for a little kick thing I just did. And we'll see what that does. See you all on the other side. Cheerio. Right on. And I got that one recorded. Yep, all worked out fine. This was a very slow burner. Very slow. Fun stuff. So, how's everyone doing so far? Hope you're all enjoying the few rays of sun if you're anywhere near to where I live. And otherwise, I hope you guys are tripping out just a modest amount. Fun stuff is happening here. You know what? We can play this dub in the background, I guess, just slightly and slowly, just softly, while we talk. No harm in that. Let's just do that. Yeah, right. So, fun stuff. Let me have a look here. So everyone still happy here. Dennis, thank you once again. You're absolute legend. That's a massive contribution. Thank you so much. What would you call that genre? Is what someone is asking me. I actually don't know. I've just lately been exploring this 100 BPM stuff and having fun with it. It's super slow burner, but just right actually. So I'm very much enjoying this. But yeah, I guess it's some kind of dub tech thingy, but sure seems to work for me these days. Slow burn slam sauce indeed. Let me see. What was the signal for that deep cello? That was once again that was the Macbeth being funky over there. And the Macbeth, basically it has this linear CV cross mod thing going on, and that is, I still want to figure out how exactly that works, because I suspect that the cross mod that it does has a major impact on many of the sounds that are coming out of it, and I want to see if I can recreate that with recreate that thing with other modules, because it's just sounding massive. So but yeah, it's the dual oscillator with the back end filter going into a ton of reverb and stuff like that, so all kind of loopy sauce. Meanwhile, before I forget, if you're watching all this on Instagram right now, hopping over to youtube.com/ColinBenders or to twitch.tv/cbenders, because that's where the party's actually happening and I can actually read the messages that are going on, so hopping over. Anyway, can you explain a little bit about the sound design? Basically, what I'm just doing is mixing in things, and then I'm using a lot of low-pass filters. As you can hear, I just love things subby and just enough transient to get deep in it. Quantum Space, thank you so much. That is a great contribution. The IKEA desk is already paid for, but I'll be sure to get something to make this into a fun project. Thank you so much. But yeah, my sound design is really just going deep and seeing what I can do with it. So speaking of which, I see, can you talk a little bit about kicks and reverb? Any tips? Yeah, I think the thing I like the most about reverbs on kicks is kind of the shockwave effect of it. I don't really like the opening it fully up You know, this already feels like way too much for me, because it's super saturating and just applying noise into things. But just a moderate amount is usually fine for me. You know, when we just do it like this and just do something subby, kind of like a cloud, and just to extend the tail end of that kick, then I'm perfectly happy with it. But the thing is that usually it's already way in the sub, so it's already battling with my bass and with all the rest, and I can sidechain my bass, and I can also sidechain the reverb, but at some point, yeah, enough is enough. So I try to just kind of use it as a space backdrop to put everything on top of it. So that's how I basically use it. Do you use low-pass filters in conjunction with low-pass gates? I don't really have a lot of low-pass gates here right now. But to be honest, I probably would. I mean, it all works, or works perfectly together, in my opinion, I guess. Oh wow, Current Fantasy! Thank you so much. Thanks, Colin. These sessions have been a lifesaver. Hey, likewise, man. It's this is the last thing keeping me sane in this lockdown. If it weren't for these sessions, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So thank you all just for being here. This is making me super happy. But yeah, low-pass filters and low-pass gates, I would definitely just mix and match and see what works. I mean, it's in the end, it's all just about the result, I guess. Let me see. What else is going on here? How's everyone doing over on the Twitch side? Simon, Jesus, thanks, you guys. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for the support. I see a question here. Will you be applying for affiliate? And that's a question from Twitch. I probably won't, since Twitch is gonna ask me to be exclusive if I become an affiliate. And to be quite honest, I don't know, I kind of feel like everyone has their own preferred platform. I've been thinking about asking people to all join one platform and be there together, but in the end, I guess you're all gonna find your own community and see where you feel most at home. And so no, I wouldn't want to force everyone on one platform just because Twitch wants me to be exclusive. So I'm probably not gonna be an affiliate or a partner for that matter, unless some of those rules would be able to be bent. But I don't think that's actually gonna happen. So instead of doing less platforms, I probably might be doing more. So yeah, I'm just gonna do that. I see a lot of questions, by the way, about how much a modular synth costs. Let me address that one, because it is actually a legit question. Like these modular setups like this, they can really run into high numbers. I'm not gonna lie, this is like a 10-year collection of mine, and I've been doing very well with the music I've done so far, and I'm reinvesting everything into this modular system. So by now, yeah, this is definitely yeah, you're looking at quite the investment. That said, there are fantastic tools of getting into modular synths lately that wouldn't break your bank if you wanted to give it a try. Like VCV Rack is fantastic for this, which basically allows you to play around and get acquainted with the modular workflow, and just make your incredible, ridiculous patches the way you want them, and then from there on you can see if this is actually something for you or not. But I would say, if you compare it to, for example, a kid playing a cello or learning how to play the piano, at some point instruments are gonna set you back quite the investment, but in the end it is worth it. I mean, I do nothing else, this is my life, and it's worth it to me. So instead of buying a car and all that stuff, I don't even have a driver's license, I just invested everything in this, and I'm happy with that. So yeah, that's it, I guess. Alright, Nas, thank you so much for your contribution. Quarantine is fun in this way. Yes, and sure is. I mean, lemons, lemonade, you know, what they say. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Let me see. I see a question here. You went from Kite Man to this. How did that happen? That is actually a very good question. Like, to be very honest, the Kite Man Orchestra has been one of the dearest projects I've ever worked on in my life. Like, seriously, if it weren't for that, whoa, Nick, Nick Cernas, holy shit! Thank you so much, man. Really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you for the contribution. This is, yeah, wow, you guys are, this is awesome. Thank you so much. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Kite Man. So that was a wonderful project to work on, and I did that for years. And I had this massive orchestra. At the end, we were with 80 people or something like that on stage. And I learned a lot in that period from working on that and working with those people. And we've explored everything. Like what I'm doing right now with these modular synths and just making music on the fly, that's a technique that we're experimenting with and developing as an orchestra, where I was the conductor and giving everyone sign language and basically just doing like big group improvisation and real-time composition. And I learned a lot from doing that, but at some point we just really felt like, hey, what's next, you know? And it didn't feel like we had a logical follow-up to go for, and instead we did feel that everyone was working on their own solo projects, and holy wow, FX Music, thank you so much for the IKEA. Vorman, guys, stop interrupting Colin with all these donations. Thank you so much. Elena, thank you. From Moscow. Hi, back to Moscow. Hey. Super awesome this. Thank you so much. But yeah, to get back to that story, it's very hard to finish the story this way. But thank you guys so much. So yeah, I was I had we had the orchestra project going on. Toys from the Deep, thank you so much. Super appreciated. I might just get a second desk at this rate. This is crazy. Thanks so much. But anyway, orchestra. We had Jesus, I completely lost track of what I was saying. Oh yeah, everyone was working on their own solo projects and their own things, and I really wanted to go for it. And work on the things that they wanted to do. Like Pax had a solo record. Niels, I'd completely drained his soul in all the jam sessions that we did. And Bink, you know, the guy from Bink Beats, you've probably seen his videos. He was the percussion player in the orchestra, and the strings and the brass were all doing fantastic. And it was just really time for people to start working on their own things. And meanwhile, I was working and experimenting slightly with this modular setup. And while I was playing with the modular, I was just thinking like, okay, so what are we going to do with the orchestra? And then at some point, results started happening on this modular system. And I was like, well, damn, wait a second. Maybe this is the perfect time to go our separate ways, at least for now, and just have everyone do their own thing and just work on projects. And I'll just keep exploring this synth. And this was kind of my hobby project, to be honest. Like, I didn't have any intention whatsoever to go full on with this. But as time progressed, I got more and more obsessed with the modular synth. And at the same time, I started getting booking requests to start doing techno shows with this, which was a big surprise to me because apparently I was doing techno. I had no clue. Yeah, basically, a few years into that, this is where we are right now. Of course, there was a whole season of streaming like 3-4 years ago, which started all of this for me. But to be honest about that period, the previous stream period, that was my perfect, kind of like the scoop of ice cream between two meals, where you just reset all your senses and go like, hey, you know what, let's just do something else. So that period was a very, very instrumental to everything that happened afterwards, and yeah, by now this is all I've been doing. So yeah, actually, some of the people who've been here were also there in the last streaming period, and you guys have no idea what a tremendous impact you have on my work and my daily workflow and the results that I'm getting out of this. So yeah, this is quite life defining for me in these sessions. So I really like to thank you all for that. Thank you so much. Anyway, I see a question about the Kiteman Studios, the Kitopia that was basically. Kitopia was a studio complex that I started 10 years ago together with my dad, Eric, who's basically, we are just managing everything as a family business. And wow, Julian, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution. This is fantastic. Thank you for your work, good times, and amazing talent. Thanks. Don't know what to say. Thank you so much. But yeah, the Kitopia Studios was a project that we started together when the Kiteman Orchestra took off, which basically was an overnight success and completely unexpected. Somewhere halfway the year, we thought like, hey, I still don't have a workspace, and all these musicians don't have a workspace. And meanwhile, yeah, I kind of felt like people were running out of workspace, and to get a proper workspace, you had to pay tremendous amounts of money, and by having high bills and fees, it would automatically force people to do commercial work, whereas if paying rent would be lower, they would have more creative autonomy over what they did. So the idea was, you know what, we're just gonna start our own space, and no matter how crappy the space is, we're just gonna offer it to all the musicians that inspire me, and we'll keep the rents as low as we can to maintain the space, and that way everyone can focus full on their creativity and their process and workflow, and we'll see what happens. And basically that ran for 10 years. At the peak we had I think something like 80 different producers and musicians and people having their studio there. And well, yeah, unfortunately the thing is that if you keep low rents, then you cannot afford to make your own space and do the big location and everything. So we were always doing these anti-squatting deals and stuff like that, where we just had temporary housing. And our last location was this fantastic spot in the center of town, which was really like the old Tivoli. Don't know if anyone knows it, in Utrecht. And no one had any clue what was going on inside those doors. Like the entire outside world was like, yeah, what the hell's going on there? But that space was home to so many projects that have happened there. Like, yeah, it's incredible. But unfortunately, they wanted to build a hotel there, so we had to move out. And after that, I tried very hard to find a new place to get everything set up. We now have something, but I just felt like, hey, I cannot do this anymore. And we tried to do something permanent. That didn't work out. And in the end, after a lot of hard work and energy and time and effort, Eric and I decided to just basically throw in the towel and give up. So our part of Kitopia is basically over now. However, the people who are renting studios there, they've all kind of forged an alliance together, and they're continuing their work together under a new banner. And they will probably be continuing and looking for new space together in the future. So that's something, but yeah, it's a shame that had to happen, but oh well. Yeah, that's it. Let me see. I see a question here. There's a question from Emmanuel Petretto. Dear Colin, can you make something with a minimal setup? A lot of us love your musical ideas, but do not have your majestic setup. Thank you to share this with us. Alright. I could definitely do that. Maybe that's an interesting something to do for this final hour of this session. Let me see. That could be cool if you guys like that. I can. It would involve me taking apart this stream. this patch. Do I want to do that? Do I want to do that? You know what? Yeah, sure, whatever. Let's just do it. I'm gonna take apart this patch. And we're just gonna do something minimal. Because I think that is actually a great idea, and I've been using this patch for a couple of days now. I wanted to keep it up because tomorrow there's a special stream gonna happen. Tomorrow or the day after. But we've been playing with this stream for a few days now. I think it's about time we take this apart. Meanwhile, I'll just keep looking at the questions here. Let's have a look. Meanwhile, I saw a question there. When did you start with modular synthesis? I started modular synthesis, I think it was about 10 years ago. Like, the very first record I ever made, which was the Hermit Sessions, I actually produced all the beats just in the box, like using Logic Pro, and I didn't have any money, so I couldn't actually afford any plugins, so I did a lot of just recording things with a mic and scraping on things and stuff like that, and I made an entire beat just using some sounds from my mouth, and the rest of it was basically just the standard Logic Pro plugins. And that record was the Hermit Sessions, and basically became a huge success here in Holland, at least. It ended up becoming a double platinum record. So that's actually also immediately the reason why I was able to do any of these things that I'm doing right now, is that that was my basically yeah, the implication of that was that from that moment on I could do whatever I wanted musically. And luckily I also had a following in that time that really allowed me to experiment in these ways. So the more projects I did, the crazier things got back then. But yeah, anyway, one of the things that happened right afterwards was that every beat that I made on my computer just felt very, very plastic, and I just felt like, yeah, this sound is not it for me. And I was looking into hardware synthesizers, and there were some very cool ones, a lot of key synths, but I wasn't really a key player, and usually it was only one or two sounds that I enjoyed, and all the rest was kind of like, yeah, but why would I buy an entire synth just for the string section on this, you know? Until someone showed me like, hey, you can also just go for modular and build your own sounds. And that person was actually Allert, who is usually in the Discord channel as well. You guys are all very welcome to join that channel, by the way. Can someone link that? For YouTube people, there's a link in the description. Or do I have it here? Yeah, I have it right here. So this is the Discord. But yeah, anyway, Allard recommended looking into modular synths for me, and I figured, like, hey, that might be an interesting idea. My main goal was to try and replace all the computer sounds that I was working with, and replace them for hardware things. Like, I wanted to have a hardware bass line when I produced a beat, and I wanted to do stuff like that. What I didn't know was that A, modular had a very steep learning curve, and B, that you had to have some sort of knowledge over what kind of system you were building. So without any knowledge and without really consulting Muffwiggler or whatsoever, I just kind of assembled a random system based on, yeah, I'm gonna need oscillators, so let me just buy a ton of those, and people say that VCAs are handy, so I'll just get one. And that entire system made no sense whatsoever. This was in 2010 or something. So by the time that I had my modular synth, I couldn't really make sense of it. I had no clue how to work that thing, and it just sat there in the corner of my studio for a long time while people were making fun of me, like, "Oh, dude, what the hell did you buy?" And so let me see. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, so that's how I started with Modular, but I had no clue how to work the damn thing. So I got a bit frustrated over that and just left it standing there in the corner of my room. Until like one project where they really needed some modular electronic stuff in there, and while working on that, I patched up, just for the hell of it, an Ave Maria, just to see, like, hey, I'm just gonna do that one, and from there on, all of a sudden I managed to do like a second voice on it. And then I noticed that I wanted to do a third voice, but I didn't have enough VCAs, and then I ordered those VCAs and finished the patch, and just that was kind of the start of like, hey, this could actually work and become something. And then I managed to do one patch, and that patch really changed everything. For those of you who are interested in that one, I have it on my Patreon. That was actually the very first polyphonic recording I've ever done. And that recording really became the one that made me decide, like, hey, you know what? To hell with it. I'm just gonna do nothing else. Modular is it from now on. Because that one was basically a polyphonic patch made with two 16-step sequencers, very donkey, and a quantizer. And it took me like a week or something to get all the parts set up properly. But afterwards, once I had that patch up and running, I just completely lost myself in the world of modulars and went like, oh, okay, so this is what this is about. And yeah, I have the recording of that. One of the community members in the Discord, Glenn Morrison, actually, he was so kind to properly master that thing, and it's available for download for Patreon supporters. So if you're curious to hear it, go ahead and go over there. But yeah, that thing became the one patch that changed everything for me. And I've been I just got lost in the system ever since, and that's also when I started really min-maxing my my setup and changing the layouts, changing yeah, adding things, subtracting things. And yeah, basically the funny thing was that I started with modulars because I wanted to replace the plastic sounds in my studio, and I ended up replacing my studio entirely. And I got rid of everything. Seriously, just everything. And just started from scratch based on the modular, and I've just been collecting pieces of kit based on what I need here. Meanwhile, I think I'm almost at the point where the last couple of sounds to unplug are yep. There's only a few sounds left. And then I have an empty rack right here. You go here. You go here. You go here. Right. Okay. The Modular's Anonymous. Right. So what have I done? I have unpatched everything now. So I guess this is where we're gonna start a fresh patch. Now, the question was a minimal setup, right? So what would actually constitute a minimal setup? let me pick a few things. I know what we're gonna do. So we're gonna pick a few things. I would say if we're going for, I'm gonna do a minimal melodic patch, and I just want to use the Ear 101. I'm gonna use one dupe for quad VCO, a dupe for quad VCF, quad VCA, and ADSR. And this is basically, yeah, the whole quad series by Dupfer. It's probably cheaper than getting a single synth voice, so that would be pretty minimal, I guess. Less than 300 HP. This is, yeah, that should work. And then I'll use reverb delay, or just delay? Reverb delay. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna use just the Ear 101, the quad series by Dupfer, and we'll use effects. How's that? I think that should constitute minimal, right? And I think all of this would together run for, well, yeah, the Ear 101 is the most pricey thing in this setup, but the rest you could get for around $1,000, I guess. So, sounds good, right? Yeah, we're just gonna use the quads, and that's it. Oh, I'm gonna need a clock source, and I'm not gonna use the circadian rhythm as a clock. I'm gonna use an oscillator for that. But yeah, I'm just gonna run the clock from, all I need is really just a square wave. Okay, so if you guys allow it, I will use a square wave from a mini mod. No, is this too fast? This is good. Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna use one oscillator as a clock source. I wouldn't count that as cheating, right? And then we're gonna work with this. Now, really, this is gonna be just a very simple thing, and this is a very quick melodic patch. And really, I think this would be the basics of when you're starting out with Modular. You probably just go with one voice and mess around with it. But what I really like about these Dupfer VCOs is I did a project last year for the Holland Festival, which is this classical opera super highbrow event, and they invited me to do a project, and they said, like, you know what, just do anything that comes to mind. We'll support it. It's gonna be fun. And this was a dream for me because I had this idea for a long time, like, hey, how cool would it be to have a project where you place a ton of speakers on a stage and give each speaker its own synth voice, because well, yeah, the one thing I'm always jealous of with classical orchestras is that you have an entire room that's helping out your sound, whereas when you're playing in a club or whatever, you always have just a stereo setup, so room acoustics and stuff like that. With a club venue or whatsoever, it usually only gets in the way. But with a classical orchestra, the room that you're playing in is actually a part of the entire instruments. So I was like, hey, you know what? That would be super cool to have like an entire orchestra of speakers on a stage, and give each speaker its own synth voice, and then mix what you hear basically just by really playing the dynamics of each and every voice. So the Holland Festival allowed me to do it, and then I ended up building this 64 voice polyphonic modular synth, and I did just about everything. Like, I think 48 out of those 64 voices were what is it? Yeah, 36 of the voices came from these quad VCOs, simply because they were just like super stable oscillators, and they were all, yeah, they all just sounded fantastic. They hardly needed any work, and that was just it. And yeah, that's where I really learned to appreciate what these duper things actually did, because before then, well, yeah, it's not the first brand you go for usually when looking into modular stuff. But I've always kind of glued very well with the products that Dietzer has been making. And especially after that project, I was really like, okay, wow, this is actually super cool stuff. And yeah, these things were really the backbone of one of the biggest projects I've done in a long time. So these are the ones that we're going to be using for this. Let me see. Now, the thing here is that I cannot individually set the envelopes. Let me see. So the envelope attack, decay, sustain, release and such is controlled centrally. But that shouldn't be a problem. And the filter, kind of the same thing. So I'm gonna have to try and figure out a way. Oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I will use, and then I'll stop adding things, the VCA matrix. If I add the VCA matrix, that gives me all the control I need, and we'll see what we can do with that. Because this VCA matrix, what's cool about that is that it gives me basically 4 inputs, 4 outputs. Is this gonna work for what I have in mind? It should. Yeah, that's gonna work. Sure, it's gonna work. Yeah, this is gonna work. So I will include the VCA matrix to be able to do some more interesting things, and this is probably gonna lead to some FME stuff. And like I said, the reverb and the delay. And that's it. I promise. Okay, so let me patch that up. What I've done right now is I just very basically, it's patching 4 synths is the same as patching 1. It's you just patch the 1 synth and then you do it again 4 times. What we are gonna do here, this output, no, this shouldn't be on the output, this should go here. So for oscillators going into the filter outputs are going into the VCA, and the envelope is going into the VCA as well. Now I'm going to take these 4 individual VCAs. I'm not going to use molds this time. It's actually the first patch I've done in a long time that I'm not going to use molds, but that's because I promised to not expand this patch any further from here on. And let me see, that's 1, that's 2. That's 3. I'm stepping on something here. And that's 4. Oh, let me see, I'm gonna take these down. We're gonna use input 5, 6, 7, and 8. course. That's how we're gonna do it. Because from the vein of having the minimal setup, I would assume that 4 outputs should be enough. I do recommend using as many outputs as you can because it's basically just adding resolution. If you have an extra output, you can always find a way to use it. But if you have a minimal setup, then this should be fine. See, this is channel 5 and 6. And for channel 7 and 8, we're going to use the delay outputs. The minimal patch challenge. And this is also, at the same time, a way of showing that a polyphonic synth doesn't have to be this huge thing. I mean, all of this would probably fit in 6U, what I'm doing right now. And I'd say that's pretty minimal, right? It's just very specific. But here we go. That's good. And let me see. Yes. I will be clocking the delay with the same minimod oscillator. I hope it will actually clock properly because it has a rising edge. Ah, that's no problem for this thing. That's fantastic. Okay. That's nice. Okay, so we have all this. Now I'm gonna work in the input for the reverb and the input for the there we go. Shall I try and adjust the camera so you guys can see what's going on here? Actually, no, it's too broad for that. Nah, this is fine. This will be it. Okay, now, what else I want to do? There's a lot of preparation in this, but it's all gonna be for the better of it. Is I wanted to yes, I was gonna do some filter FMing, and the filter FM patch for this basically is gonna be I'm gonna be sending the output of oscillator 1 into the FM input for oscillator 2. Oh, I could actually do that on the oscillators itself as well. That's even more fun. Okay, let me do that actually. Yep. Okay. That's even better. So I'm gonna put this into the sync input of oscillator 2. And 2 into 3, 3 into 4, and 4 into 1. The funny thing when you try and FM a voice with itself is that it just cancels itself out, so that's usually not really useful. But if you just use the one following up, it's usually a more interesting result. Wait, that's the wrong row. Let me... There we go. And I'm going to do the same into the filter FM. I have no clue what that's going to do, to be honest. and then we'll see how all this sounds. So oscillator 1 goes into filter of input, inputs 2, 2 into 3, 3 into 4, 4 into 1. And once I have this set up, I can finally start making some sound to see what we actually have. Blind patches. Fun stuff. Okay. Let's hear it. Okay, I'm gonna cut the mic just so I can focus on this, and I'm gonna play around with it, alright? Enjoy, guys. Let's see what this does. So there's a few things I'm noticing while I'm patching with this. One of which is that I think this particular quad VCO needs some calibrating. What I'm hearing in this voice. Is it this one? I have it way out of its chord tuning right now. Which means there's something funky going on there, so I was handicapped for one voice. And that one is drifty as hell. So I was kind of trying to battle that one. But that is one thing. The other is playing with mixing everything just with the dry wet on your herb verb and a delay. That severely complicates things, but it's doable, I guess. And having just a single ADSR for everything, well, it kind of limits what you can do with it. That said, it just forces you to have a very clear idea of where you're going. Right now, the clock source was an oscillator, so it's actually in, like, if I put this in audio rate, yeah, so I'm just using what is it? Just an AJH oscillator for the clock source right now. And that one is my master clock for everything, so also for the delays and stuff like that, which is a funny thing here now is that it's actually oscillating at a way higher rate than what we're hearing right now, but we can just lengthen the notes and then you get what you need out of it. Let me see. How will we optimize this? Well, for one, we could definitely make the bass line a lot more interesting. Just the one right now. This is actually pretty good for me, having these massive limitations, what I can play with right now. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, funny stuff. Yeah. Yeah, it's basically with a setup like this, you would be able to get some results out of it, but it's definitely not an optimized setup this way. However, it does fit within 6U, so it would be a very quick way of getting getting a polysynth going. Neil's not bad for 5 hours of sleep. Dude, bro force, man. Bro force! Anyway. So, yeah, 5 hours of sleep. Niels and I were up until 7 this morning, I think. Playing bro force. So, didn't have a lot of sleep right now, but it was sure it was fun. But you know, I should be doing more of these limited sessions with limited setups, because this is actually, it does force a different way of thinking. And what I thought would happen, and that's also something that I'll say right away, is what I wanted to happen was that I would be able to open and close the individual filters by sending out the oscillators to into the different FM inputs. However, silly me, in order to do that properly, you need an offset voltage, and an oscillator does not give me an offset voltage, it just oscillates. So that was not doing what I planned it to do, and that was half the patch in that sense. If I were to use an offset voltage as an input, I would have been able to open and close filters and gate lengths and stuff like that. However, I didn't, and that's where that part kind of did not work. However, that being said, it still allows you to get at least 4-note polyphony going in a patch like this, which can be fun and can be nice, but it's also yeah, I wouldn't call it a successful patch in that sense. Oh well, live and learn it. Let me see. What I'm gonna do actually is, I think we're just about at the end of today's session. And tomorrow I will be streaming at 9. And that's gonna be a big one. I feel like going all out again. Today was more of a experimentation thing, so I like that. This was good. We've covered a lot of things today, so that's that was nice. And well, yeah, tomorrow I will go deep in it again. I will change up the patch a bit. I'll probably, well, quite a bit, since I took everything apart now. And I will probably build something up and see where it goes. I might use the Ravens for that. It's 9 p.m. Central European time. Let me see. Also, let me see. Here's the Discord link once again. Yeah, we had some fun today. A couple of very cool things happened today. So wasn't as much music as it was more talking about music, but sometimes that's good too. We needed that. So I invite everyone to hop on over here. And I will see you all tomorrow when we go straight for some big time jam stuff again. Thank you all, and see you next time. Goodbye.